Hey guys, welcome back to another three-man weave live here from Assembly Hall. 73-54, IU defeats Penn State, ending the three-game losing streak that the Hoosiers were on. Tail two halves tonight. First half, 27 points, season low for IU at home in the first half this year. In the second half, Cody Zeller scored on a tip in 11 seconds in. Verdell Jones had finished a layup off of Jordy Hull's steal and assist, and the rest was history. IU really never looked back. Hit some big second half threes, and then defense was on Tim Frazier was another big thing. Connor, talk a little bit about that defense. That was really the theme of the press conference, turning that defense into offense, and mainly what Victor Oladipo and Will Sheehy did on Tim Frazier.
Very impressive job. Tim Frazier is definitely one of the best players in the Big Ten, is able to create his own shot. We've seen that constantly throughout conference play with him. Is a guy that can take over a game, and IU really didn't allow him to do that. Shot 2 of 8 in the second half and really couldn't get anything going offensively. And when he's not going for Penn State isn't going. And that was the key of this game. Victor Oladipo, we've talked about it before, maybe a little bit earlier in the season where he's able to lock down on a team's best player. Today was a perfect example of that. I know he has gotten away from that a little bit. Didn't have the best game against Nebraska's Bo Spencer, and a lot of people had some blame his way towards for as to why Nebraska was able to come back in those final 6 minutes. But tonight was a completely different story. Very impressive performance by Oladipo and Sheehy, who also was able to get in on the act, trying to shut down their best player.
Yeah, Bo Spencer, I think, had 23 on Wednesday night. That was a huge reason why Nebraska was able to pull off that upset. And then the last two games, Frazier 14 of 41 against IU in the two games this year. So Victor definitely put up a pretty solid effort tonight. Avi, talk a little bit about IU's point guard. I know you wrote about him, a guy that has struggled in the past 3 games. I think he was 4 of 17 from 3 heading into today since that last Penn State game. But he had some big shots definitely in the second half.
Yeah, absolutely. Jordan Hull's really just I felt like I was watching the Jordan Hulls of old, the Jordan Hulls that helped lead this team to a 15-1 start. In the first half, it was the Cody Zeller show. It was 12 points, and the next leading scorer for IU, and there was kind of a mix and match of players, had 3.
Right. And Zeller, I think, was the only field goal until the 10-minute mark. I want to say Will Sheehy had a 3 from a corner, and that was the first person not named Zeller to score.
Somebody under the height of 6'11" needed to step up.
Right.
It had to be someone. And the first 2 plays of the second half were so key, and it was Zeller with the tip-in, and then it was Jordan Hulls with the steal, his first of the game.
Defense.
Right. It was Hulls'
Go
defense.
figure.
And I mean, this is a guy that's getting beat off the dribble very, very often. Right. He gets the steal, and then not only does he drive to the basket, but he makes an unselfish play to Verdell Jones, great midair adjustment, gets the easy layup, and that really keyed, I think, the rest of the half, where Zeller ended up having, because of foul trouble also, he had 6 points, and it was the other guy stepping up, and although it wasn't Hulls from a points perspective, it was Hulls from a 0 turnovers perspective. It was Hulls from a 3 steals perspective. It was Hulls from a 3 assists perspective. So this is a guy, as floor general, that really needs to control this team. Like I said, he's not going to score the most amount of points, of course, with the threes, but, he just really needs to handle the ball well. And between him and Verdell Jones, who also didn't have any turnovers tonight, I thought they did a good job today in the second half.
Somebody asked Hulls about his confidence after the game, and he didn't come out and say his confidence. It was either you or Karchi, and somebody said, or Hulls didn't come out and say his confidence was shooken, but it took him a while to answer it. Yeah. Like, it's almost like he didn't want to admit. Yeah. And for IU to make any type of run in March, that kid his confidence has got to be there every game, because he is a guy that does look like he kind of beats himself up at times. And
he's admitted that, yeah.
Right, and he does play in the gym that he's grown up in, really, and watch these, and I think he puts a lot of pressure on him, and so tonight I think was big for him. He didn't have a tough assignment on the other end of the floor. Penn State, like Connor said, is Tim Frazier, and that's about it. So he can kind of focus on what he does so well, and that is run this team.
Yeah, and I mean, just real quick, you mentioned the performance he's coming off of. That Nebraska game was rough on him, especially towards the stretch. He misses the front end of the 1-and-1, and that puts IU. It fails to put IU up 3, so now they're up 1. And then the last possession game, he misses a contested layup, and then the prayer goes unanswered. So this kid, I think, really had a big chip on his shoulder coming into this game, and he capitalized.
Not to beat to death the Jordan Hulls defensive theme, because I know we're not going to get to talk about it very much this year, but another game in which Jordan Hulls was able to get in the passing lanes. It doesn't happen very often, but he had 4 steals against Kentucky. Go figure.
Right.
Game where he got absolutely worked in the second half by
Yeah.
Marcus Teague, but a game where his steals still translated into offense. For
I
him.
think it's his instincts more
Yeah,
than anything. You
right.
know, he's definitely. I don't think he would be here and calling. You know, he wouldn't sit here and say that he's one of the best defenders on this team. But he's so smart. You know, I'm sure he knows where everybody's going on the court on the other team. So I think that's a big reason why he's able to get those steals.
And that's huge for him to be able to control the tempo
Right.
because as he goes, this team goes.
And then to transition to a larger point, that transition bucket at the start of the second half. When's the last time we saw IU take a steal and then go down the court and make it
been a
into
while.
offense?
And that was IU's first lead of till the 10-minute mark of the first half, and I think they led the rest of the way.
Yep.
Guys, one thing I want to talk about Penn State, it's definitely not a very talented Big Ten team, but how hard they work. And Tom Creed mentioned after the game, it was almost a good thing for IU. Not that they were playing the worst team in the Big Ten record-wise, but they were playing a team that is so aggressive and so physical. There are 32 fouls called in the second half. A lot of that obviously had to do with the refs. But Penn State, for not having much talent, they play very hard. And I know Connor and I are very hard on Patrick Chambers, and I think if they're ever able to recruit at somewhat of a high level, I'm not going to say Villanova or Pittsburgh like those other teams in the state, but if they can ever get some quality players, I think Penn State could be a force to reckon with down the road.
They wear their hearts on their sleeves.
Yeah.
That's for sure. This is a very extroverted team with a very extroverted coach, and that kind of came to a head towards the end.
And I think that's really indicative with Pat Chambers. A lot of people are going to look at this game as a game where IU should win by 15 or 19 points like they did. I think the spread was 15. But if you look at a guy like Pat Chambers and what he's going to be able to bring in these next few years when he's able to bring in his own recruits, he really has a mindset and a philosophy that is going to permeate throughout this program, and it's going to turn this program around. I firmly believe that. We saw it even, this is some of the subtle things we pick up, but even what a Penn State player went down in the corner over there on a three-pointer, and the entire Penn State bench and every player on the floor in a Penn State uniform was helping him up.
The crowd was booing; they were furious, but I think that
There's nothing wrong with that.
No,
These guys were definitely an us against the world mentality, it felt like, and they were banded together as one group.
Guys, the last thing I want to touch on before we wrap things up is that little scuffle that happened about 6 seconds to go in the game. Connor and I had not a very good angle on it. I did watch the video. Will Sheehy he got a second technical of the game. Earlier, he got a technical. Did you guys see what the first technical was really?
Was that when he was lying on the ground?
It was a double tech. I think he was fouled hard on a fast break here, said some words. Tom Crean, I watched the video over again. He mouthed something that I don't think is allowed to be said on three-man weave, but it looked like it was just a verbal thing. Calbert Cheney, credit him. He actually did a great job of holding Will back, because if he would have left the bench, he was not in the game at the time. So if he would have left the bench, then that definitely would have been, or I shouldn't say definitely because I'm not 100% positive, but I think that would mean he would not play Thursday night. Tom Crean mentioned after the game that his status he doesn't think will be in question. He should be in the lineup Thursday, and I think everybody knows that Will Sheehy needs to be playing on Thursday when you go into arguably the toughest place to play in this conference.
Will Sheehy needs to grow up, plain and simple. He's had too many games where, he should have been called out a little bit earlier before this, because I said it before. He has never committed a foul in his life. Just ask him. And if you react that way to every single call against you, and if you react that way towards officials and disrespect an official like that in public, you're going to get called out for it. And an official's going to be quick to tee you up. And you know what? When you get chippy with an opposing player like that, they're going to tee up there. And it could have really cost him tonight. If Calbert Cheney isn't bear hugging him, you know what? They're without their sixth man, one of their starters apparently, for a big game at Wisconsin. And that's something where maturity corrects that. I know he's only a sophomore, but he needs to get the message and get it quickly.
I thought Chambers was going to get teed up too.
Yeah.
Earlier. He was asking for it, man.
I think that's part of his, personality too. He's trying to light a fire in his team. So yes,
I'm a real man.
IU travels to Madison, Wisconsin Wednesday night, late tip, 9 o'clock. We will be there covering it. IU 3 of their next 4 on the road at Wisconsin, then they come home to Iowa on Sunday, and then the Super Bowl week, I guess you call it, they travel to Michigan on Wednesday and then Purdue on Saturday. So you got to think, just for your resume standpoint and confidence, you'd like to steal at least one of these next 3 road games. So for Avi Zalen, Connor O'Gara, I'm Kevin Bowen, guys. Again, IU 73-54, and they even their record in the Big Ten at 4-4. Thanks, guys. See you Thursday night.
Ravens.